Welcome to the Tackling Tech podcast, powered by Dyno. Join us as we tackle all things EdTech with insightful interviews, actionable tips, and strategies that you can implement in your school or district to make technology integration more effective. Whether you're a teacher, a tech coach, or a technology administrator, we're giving you an advantage in your role by sharing stories from people who are passionate about working with their peers and enhancing the learning experience with technology. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now let's tackle some tech.
Welcome back to Tackling Tech, a podcast that shares stories about how you can build better collaboration in K-12 schools, and a show that is dedicated to putting a voice to remote learning. I am Brett McGrath, Vice President of Marketing at Dyno, and I am excited for today's conversation. Wow, I can't believe how long we've been in this remote and distance learning environment. It's crazy. It's been a long time, right? It seems like forever ago when we all left our schools, offices, wherever you may work, and started jumping on a lot of Zoom calls and using tools like Slack and Microsoft Teams to communicate. It's been a good run here. I know I have learned a lot about how to leverage technology to my advantage in a remote learning environment. But at the core, really, it comes down to leaning into communication and making sure that you're making an extra effort to stay on the same page with your coworkers and goals are aligned. That's been my one big takeaway. And I know everyone who listens to Tackling Tech and whatever roles you may be in has had to overcome certain circumstances in your roles based on, this new remote environment. And I hope everyone has learned something. I hope everyone has learned new tactics and better ways and the importance of communication and how to leverage technology, when to leverage technology. I think back to, Eric Geis, who we talked to in a few episodes ago, and him referencing teachers as, being tech comfortable and tech uncomfortable, and how those teachers that were tech uncomfortable were now being forced to become tech comfortable. And I think whether it's technology, whether it's, collaboration-based, communication-based, I think this period of time has really allowed us to reconsider the ways that we go about our roles on a day-to-day basis and what's essential and what is not essential. And at the end of the day, I think one thing is certain, that technology isn't going away, and we all need to, whatever industry you're in, need to jump on that bandwagon, because technology has really allowed all of us to become better in our roles, in our places of work, and we can all be very, very thankful for that. So I know everybody's been is currently winding down the year, or maybe by the time you've listened to this episode, classes are over. And so there's a lot of reflection going into the summer months on, what's going to happen, what's my district going to do, and there's just a lot of uncertainty in place. And that, I think, is, just the world we've been living in over the last couple months. But, from educators that I've talked to, it sounds like there's, various plans in place and ways to go back to the fall semester and everyone be safe, and alternative paths based on things that are going on. So I know that's a lot to kind of wrap your head around, and I know that's a lot for people who like to be, who are planners, and people who like to know what they can expect. But I think it's one of those things based on these last 2 months that, we all just need to be, adaptable and flexible as we consider how we operate going into next year. So I do want to congratulate all of you who are educators listening to Tackling Tech and have completed this calendar year or are about to. I know there's been tremendous hurdles and obstacles that you've all had to overcome in your roles, whether it's on the administrative side, on the tech coaching side, and really being that resource to jump on Zoom calls and make sure that teachers have an idea of the technology that they have in place. I know I've talked to just several tech coaches who all they do are on Zoom calls and they're doing professional development 24/7. So that's awesome. And then, the teachers, right, having to do their job in a completely different way from their couch at home or home office, whatever that environment is. But in many cases, it's not only trying to serve their students, but also their children who are also students, which is a wild dynamic that we've talked a lot about in this podcast. So congrats to you. Hopefully everyone can take a deep breath, enjoy some time away from school. And yeah, we'd love to hear feedback on the good, bad, and the ugly. So always feel like you can reach out to us. Maybe we have you on an episode of Tackling Tech to talk about it. So I know that we've been really busy at Dyno, and we have been getting a lot of feedback on not only just the content we're producing, like Tackling Tech, but also just our overall product. And this time has been critical for us because we've spent it talking to our customers, understanding how our product fits in during this time of remote learning, and then how our product can help enhance the remote and in-class experience moving forward. So the feedback that we've received that is going to contribute to our product roadmap of how we support K-12 schools, whether it's in a physical or remote environment moving forward, has been critical for us. And we really want to say thank you to all of our customers that have been open to giving us feedback and open to our feedback, and just really building those lines of communication has been helpful for Dyno and helped us really think about how we innovate to better serve all of those personas within the school and school district that make it all happen. I personally, through a platform like Tackling Tech, feel like I have got a fast pass of learning based on all the conversations I've had over the last 2 or 3 months. This has been, as I'm not an educator in K-12, I'm a marketer at a technology company. This has really given me the opportunity to get behind the hood of the car and understand how all the parts work, and understand where the rub is, and understand where there's areas of opportunity. And I can't thank all of the guests on Tackling Tech enough for taking some time and just having a conversation with me, because I feel like I'm more informed and more educated on those topics that matter. And then I can take their stories and feedback and apply it to items like what we're talking about on Tackling Tech, what we're doing with digital events, what kind of blog posts we're producing on the Dyno blog. So it's been my own personal PLC or PLN, and you're all getting to hear it in real time, which is kind of fun. But really can't thank everyone enough for participating in that. So I know we're super busy this week. Tomorrow is our professional development summit. And so it'll be well done on the other side of this recording. But what a fun experience for us, and what incredible people we've met during the planning stages of the Professional Development Summit. I think we've been thinking critically about the time and the period of time we're in, and how we can help support educators in K-12 through platforms like digital events or like Tackling Tech. And we really, the pulse we received, or the feedback we received, and kind of us putting our finger on the pulse, was that, professional development was going to be different this time around, and the planning and the strategies that go into that were going to be different. And so we really wanted to provide a stage and bring the voices to the table and allow really smart people who are also amazing educators to come in and share their advice and information and answer questions that we're getting from the audience about, all things PD related. So we've spent a ton of time organizing this event, and I'm so excited that it's finally happening tomorrow. But that's something certainly, if you didn't attend or register and get the recording, you're going to want to check it out, right? You're going to watch it on your own time, and we'll have that posted on YouTube. But just, you heard the episode last week with Pearl, and Pearl is our keynote. I mean, I'm so excited that she is working with us because her voice is so powerful, her story is so powerful, and her, the pillars that she leans on that represent who she is as an educator are very strong, and those are things that I think people in the audience need to hear more of. So excited about Pearl. I hope you all enjoyed her episode last week. Just to give you a rundown on the other panelists we have. So Deborah Jacoby, who is an instructional technologist at Pinecrest. Debbie's awesome. And you know what? I felt really bad because she was one of the first people that we recorded Tackling Tech with, and we did an episode on the working memory. And then I think it was the day after we recorded, COVID-19 hit, and it didn't make a lot of sense for us to put out that episode as educators were scrambling to figure out how to operate in a remote environment. So we pivoted and started talking about remote learning, but, we kept in touch with Debbie, and this opportunity came up, and she's so smart, and her school, Pinecrest in Florida, is super progressive, and they are really innovative where they've got, I think 6 or 7 plans to go back to school next year in different scenarios, which is fascinating. So I'm excited for her to drop her knowledge and for you all to listen to that. I'm excited for feedback you have on anything Debbie has to say, because I'm sure it's going to be really cool and awesome. Also, Jake Standish. Jake is a friend of Dyno and a customer of Dyno. So he's the program and IT manager at Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, which very big, substantial district. He's been great giving his time to us during this crazy time for him, trying to manage the infrastructure and support all the teachers through technology in that district. That's a mammoth during this time. So we're very grateful. Jake is a friend of Dyno and has taken some time to participate. And I hope he gets into talking about their Chromebook deployment and how they managed it during this time. So CMS is the largest Chromebook deployment in K-12 in the world, which is crazy to think about. That's a lot of Chromebooks to have to manage during a time where you pivot to remote learning. And Dyno helps power Charlotte-Mecklenburg and help support their Chromebook deployment. So we're super excited to hear more about how that's gone in the feedback. But Jake's great. So anyone who listens to that will enjoy his perspective. And Dr. Eric Youngman, so the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment for Libertyville. He was on an episode, and he talked about growth mindset, and we wanted to work with him because, based on his role, he shares a little different perspective on PD, and so we thought that was important. So we're excited for him to join the party. And then we rounded out with Amy Sharp, who's the Instructional Technology and PD Coordinator for Jefferson County Schools, which is in the East Tennessee area. She's been great. She's engaged with our team and is super fired up to jump on and help some educators think about PD going into the summit. So we spent a lot of time and energy on the Professional Development Summit, and it's not going to stop there. We're going to have another event. There's going to be more opportunities to learn from educators, and that's what we're all about. So definitely, by the time you hear this, that will be published, and that's going to be something you're going to want to check out. How about some housekeeping? It wouldn't be an episode of Tackling Tech without it. I'm amazed by the reviews. I know I talked about it last time around, but please keep those reviews coming. Those help us out a lot. If you're a regular listener, or maybe even just a new listener to Tackling Tech and you like what you heard, hit the subscribe button. Leave us that 5-star review. That's so important for us as we're trying to grow and gain exposure in the K-12 marketplace. So thank you so much. If you've been someone who's wrote an awesome review for us, that's so important. Thank you. You can reach us at Tackling Tech Pod on Twitter. That's the best place to reach us right now. That's a handle where, whether it's an @ mention, direct message, we should get back to you soon. You got show ideas, people we should talk to, let us know. Dyknow.com, we're posting new content every day. go check us out there. And then obviously we've mentioned this, but our Tech Coach Con Facebook group, we'd love to have you answer a few questions, and then you can join the party of 100 other educators that are trying to learn from each other. So we have, really had a pulse on what's happening and tried to pull some themes that we've heard from our customers and people that aren't customers that we're talking about to and trying to become customers. And, we've heard several things. And these are things that we really want to shine a light on, and we want to, help share stories about overcoming some of these hurdles in the coming episodes of Tackling Tech. But things like teachers struggling to adopt existing tools during this time, device issues that might have happened during remote learning, connectivity or the wireless issue of students in a remote learning environment, building out policies regarding just device management outside of the walls of a school building, and just overall budget cuts. So these are all circumstances that I know a lot of you in your roles have been on the front lines dealing with, or have maybe had a ripple effect where those things have hit you in a certain way. And those are the things we really want to talk about on Tackling Tech. So look for more information as we pull in guests to chat about that. Okay, so I am really excited about today's episode because it's a repeat episode, but if you've been a listener of Tackling Tech this entire run, you've never heard Josh speak. And again, it was the same instance as Deb Jacoby before. So Josh is a dual role industrial arts middle school teacher and an IT coordinator for his district in Michigan. And we had recorded an episode of Tackling Tech right before the pandemic hit. And again, it was one of those deals where we were talking about formative assessment, and the timing wasn't right. But we kept in touch with Josh during this period, and we were trying to line up new guests, and Josh had reached out, and I said, this would be a great time to learn about your dual role, how it worked during this time of remote and distance learning. What are your big takeaways? And then also get into, since it's a topic we're talking about, get into what his plans are for professional development. We're really excited about the conversation that we had, and hopefully there's a lot that you can take away and a lot that you can learn from that. And without further ado, let's kick it over to that convo. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening in on Tackling Tech. I'm super excited for this conversation we're about to have here, and I referenced it at the top, but we're talking with Josh Bridges. And unfortunately, the last conversation we had with Josh, we did not get a chance to publish because the pandemic decided to happen, and what we talked about wasn't really relevant for the time being. So Josh, I appreciate round two. How have you been?
Been good, surviving like everybody else, homeschooling, working, the whole deal.
Yes. So I think one of those interesting topics maybe we can just kick it off with is, and a lot of educators are dealing with this, but just, not only doing actually, you've got several jobs. So you're not only a teacher, but you're the IT coordinator for the district, and then also you are the parent of a student. So how has all of those roles, how have you been balancing that all out during this time?
Not sure that I have. It's been a roller coaster. Right before we got on the call here, I've got an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. One of them, the 12-year-old, she's in her class meeting, and 8-year-old, I had to make sure he's set up in his class meeting. And then our 2-year-old's begging for daddy to play for a few minutes. And, it's one of those, like, trying to balance everything, trying to make sure that you have your work time every day. Like every day I'm doing office hours. So my kids know from a certain time to a certain time, like I'm not available. I have to be ready for people to ask questions. And so I've got that. I also manage our student information system. And so we've had a lot of things come down with that, with calendars, and our high school and middle school are trying to get schedules put together for next year. So we're doing that. So it's kind of just like allotting certain amounts of time for different tasks. I've set up where, like, over the weekend, I don't do anything for the last couple weekends because it's been so hectic. And, you know, if I've got time during the day that I am dedicating to work. And then in the evening, if my kids are all playing, if they're busy, you know, whatever, I might take a little bit of time, check emails, make sure that I'm not falling behind and try to catch up on some stuff if possible.
Yeah, and I think something that you touched on that I want to maybe dive a little deeper on is, you know, the office hours that you have and your children understand this is the time where dad works. I imagine there were probably some hurdles to get to that point where you truly felt like you could zone in your role as, you know, a teacher and, you know, IT coordinator for the district as opposed to dad or maybe teacher support for students trying to learn at home. What can you share with just audience members that maybe are also educators and parents at the same time, maybe some of those things that you have put in place or those building blocks where you can, you know, not only be a parent, but then also make sure that you've established time where you can go and effectively do your job?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've done is I've kind of got a couple areas in the house that I've turned into my office. We just finished our new laundry room. And so that's like my day-to-day office area. And so I'm out there working on different days. And I especially utilize that space when my wife's working because she's a nurse. And so she has to keep on working on certain days. And so on days that she's at work that I'm at home with kids, I work in the laundry room. It's a nice area. I built myself a nice, my background is in woodworking and, you know, obviously technology, but I started out as a shop teacher and I built myself this nice little podium thing that stands on top of my, whatever surface I'm using that can be a adjustable desk. And so that thing's been hauled around the house everywhere. And so on days that she's working, it typically goes out to the laundry room so I can work out there. When I'm doing stuff for my students, because I'm teaching as well in a STEM class. And so for those, I go out to my garage because then they can see like a shop, which they're used to seeing. And then right now I'm actually in our basement in my other office because I'm trying to get away from everybody. And so, you know, it's just trying to balance life, trying to figure out where's the best place to work. And you know, my wife and I, when we first had our daughter 12 years ago, we were like, oh, we're never going to let her watch TV. Like, never going to do this, never going to do that. Well, TV has become our best friend for our 2-year-old right now. I feel bad doing it, but it's like, you know what, buddy, you're gonna have to watch Peppa Pig or something for a little bit while dad has his office hours because mom's at work and brother and sister are working on schoolwork. So, and I've also, my daughter stepped up a lot. She's 12 and she helps out a lot. Like she is really good. She gets up in the morning, does all of her schoolwork right away. And then I'm like, hey, you know, can you watch your brother for me while I'm doing my meetings? And so she's done pretty good. And so it's just, you know, like in these times that we're living in right now, just kind of managing things and making things work and utilizing all the resources you have.
Yeah, well, I think I know we've had an episode with Chris Woods just on STEM, but sounds like some classic STEM training for you, using different environments and building things in order to make your job more effective. So I think that's super cool. And I think one of the other things that I heard you say that I've heard a lot of educators say is, you know, as the parent, you've kind of give up some of the reins and at this time, and if watching Peppa Pig is gonna help allow you to do your job more effectively, then, you know, that's something you're just gonna have to, you know, compromise with moving forward. So that's super interesting. And now I think something else we've heard a lot about is just, you know, the dual threat of, you know, being that tech coach / IT coordinator and then also teacher, right? That gives you a really interesting perspective on application of technology from a teacher perspective, and then just supporting the technology use from, you know, the tech coach perspective. So what has your experience been just in those two roles and throwing remote learning into the mix? What have been maybe your biggest takeaways in those two roles?
For me personally, I think that a big takeaway would be how important it is for blended learning. And I've felt that way for a long time, that blended learning is really important, that it is, I think it's the way of the future in education, to be honest. that you're doing your lessons in a way that the students can see what you're teaching in a virtual environment, kind of, whether it's in class and they're watching it or whether they're watching it at home. And then you can utilize that time at school when you're in person to actually do like hands-on, to get into the, down and dirty with the stuff. And I've seen, like, as with this experience, everybody's having to utilize the technology. Everyone's having to adapt and make use of it. And I think at this point, one of the big things going into the fall is that whether we're in person or not, people are going to have to do it. They're going to have to start blending their classes in case something like this happens again, because who knows, if we have to shut down for, snow for 3 weeks and we have to start doing online learning, or if we have to do this because we have another pandemic, or whatever the case might be, if we're back in this situation, we need to have a plan ahead of time.
Yeah, and I think, I've heard you talk about blended learning and obviously agree with you that this experience has definitely brought the importance of blended learning to life. And maybe touch on, say we're back at school, everyone, let's be super optimistic and let's say everyone's going back, but then there might be kind of a setback. What sort of steps, I guess, would you recommend just different district technology leaders and educators be thinking about in order to kind of build that that blended learning plan as an option moving forward? What are those first few things you would be doing?
Yeah, one of the things that I'm doing right now when we get off this recording is looking at a survey that our teachers completed, trying to figure out what they did this spring that worked well, what didn't work, what technology tools that they used that they thought were good, what tools they thought were bad, what they had a hard time with. And then from there, I'm actually developing some mini courses that we're going to offer for our teachers over the summer, because typically they do conferences or over the summer workshops and stuff. And so we're going to do those as virtual classes over the summer. And so I've got to develop those. And so that's kind of the first step that we're going to do. And then I've been reaching out, my supervisor is our assistant superintendent, and who's in charge of curriculum. And so I've been talking to her lately about, in the fall, let's have, a policy where the teachers have to do blended learning. Like, they have to integrate technology in a way that would get kids ready for blended learning. And I've had a conversation with our middle school principal, and he's probably the building that's had, because they're old enough that they aren't having their hands held by the elementary teachers, but they're not 100% independent like the high schoolers. And so I talked to the middle school teacher or middle school principal about, in the fall, I'll go around classroom to classroom and work with all of the teachers and make sure they are comfortable using all the platforms. And this is best case scenario, obviously. And if the students are all there, we're going to sit down and I'm going to get all the kids into our single sign-on program. Make sure that they know how to access it, make sure they know how to open videos, make sure they know how to do all these different things, and then kind of have a rubric for teachers. Like, here are the steps that you need to make sure that you're maybe not daily, but weekly, bi-weekly, so that if something like this happens again, we're ready to go right off the bat. Because I'm not sure about other states, but in Michigan, we ended on March 13th, and then we had 3 weeks of nothing. There was 3 weeks where nothing happened at all. And then we had spring break. And during that time, we started trying to figure out, how are we going to do this? Are we going to do packets for kids? My kids, the district that my kids go to, they aren't doing packets at all. And my son's actually kind of hurt a little bit because he is struggling with the computer part. He's great with technology, but he's kind of addicted to it. And so we've had to print off a lot of his things at home so he can do them at home. And then he just puts everything onto the computer to turn in. But they're doing flash drives that they're handing out to kids. And so, trying to figure out, how are we going to make this work? What are we going to do? And then finally, over a month after the initial shutdown, we finally got to get started. And so you had kids sitting there for a month without doing anything, where in the future, it'd be nice. There's been conversations about extended snow days. It's like we've had before, where we have a whole week off for snow. And in those situations, they want remote learning to start immediately. And so if that's the case, then we need to have it ready so that the students can start that remote learning right away. So it's not waiting for, 3 or 4 days, and then it's, we're back in class person to person. So getting them ready ahead of time, trying to get teachers to utilize the technology. And one thing that's been nice is that, the teachers have stepped up a lot, and even the reluctant ones, they've stepped up quite a bit. I do trainings all the time for teachers, and I've got, the regular attendees for my workshops, and then I've got the teachers that never come, and they're the ones that have had the most questions during this time, and they've actually stepped up quite a bit. And so hopefully in the future, that means that they're going to be stepping up and attending more workshops.
Totally. And I think, a couple of things there to react to. I think one, in your description, it's really hard for anybody in your shoes, even people that are dealing with technology on a day-to-day basis, to not, and are also a parent, to not have your experience just professionally bleed over to what's happening in your personal life as a parent, and the struggles that your son was going through just in terms of adapting to this new way of learning. So that's definitely super interesting. And I think a lot of people in the audience can resonate with that. And I think the other thing is just this idea of teachers and those, I know we talked about it before this call, but just in Eric Geis's episode, just the tech comfortable and the tech uncomfortable, and how that this whole experience is maybe forcing those teachers that are, tech uncomfortable to feel obligated and required to become comfortable. And that's why those folks are now showing up to those professional development sessions or trainings, and they might not have in the past. What are your thoughts on that?
Those tech uncomfortable teachers, I feel that a lot of those teachers, they're starting to look at the technology like it's not a bad guy. They're looking at it like they could really use it as a tool. And I think a majority of them are opening up to it with open arms, like, yes, this is something that I need to do. And then we've got some other teachers. I know there's a few teachers that have retired from this. They've gotten their 30 years and they're just kind of, doing it because they enjoy it. And this has just kind of pushed them over the edge. And they're like, I'm done. But then, there's going to be a few that they're still going to be, this is not how I want to do it. I don't want to do the technology. And one of the things going forward is that teachers need to see that remote learning isn't just about taking what we have done in person and putting it on the computer and making it work, but they need to start rethinking their lessons. And this is something I've pushed a long time. I've, been a proponent of SAMR and some of these different models of tech integration, and, rethinking what you're doing and not just using the technology because you have it. And that's been a lot of districts. What happens is they've got all this technology the kids are using and that are in the classroom, and they either aren't using it and it's just paperweights, or they're just using it as a replacement for paper. And so in this situation, I think that teachers have stepped up quite a bit and created things that are truly hands-on, that are not just, I took my worksheet and I put it online and the kids were, doing the worksheet, and, having them have problems that are real world and to solve, and hands-on, and not just, like rote memorization, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that leads into just overall like preparation for the summer and just technology and professional development plans. What are your thoughts on just this overall experience, and how is that impacting how you prepare for PD in the summer months? What types of things are you doing?
This has been, I've heard before, never let a good crisis go to waste. And this is one of those situations. So there's a huge crisis, and it's, we're having to do learning totally different than we've done it before. Everybody's learning from home, and teachers are working from home with their kids. And everything is totally different. And so we need to take advantage of this and utilize it. Don't let this time go to waste, and utilize it in the fall for, truly blending learning and for coming up with new ideas. Like I was just saying about the teachers that are coming up with new ideas, and not just, here's my worksheet. Here's a chance that we can take this and really make a difference in education and change it so that those kids that are struggling can have a better understanding. And, like there's some kids that do better on paper pencil. Well, that's great. There's some kids that do better in technology. You can blend those together and make it work. So for over the summer, we're doing lots of classes that our teachers are going to be able to take. One of my classes I'm going to put together as a blended learning class, because I think a lot of times right now, a lot of the teachers I've seen from my kids and some of the other teachers that I've worked with, that they are just doing what they've done in the past and just changing it to digital, just because, we were thrown into this so quick. We had 3 weeks of nothing, and then all of a sudden it's like, we've got to get this going by, a certain day, and it's got to be launched and ready to go, and, we've got to be deep diving in. Mm-hmm. And so, with the teachers, they didn't have a whole ton of time to plan and kind of change things. So hopefully over the summer, doing this blended class, they're going to be able to see how they can use these technology resources and tie that in with their curriculum and change their classes for the future. And so we'll do that. We've got some different, I'm going to come up with a class. I just became a Google certified trainer. And so I'm going to be doing some G Suite training with my staff. And then, how to use different audiovisual tools. We've done a lot of screencasting right now and different videos and things like that. And so how they can utilize that, and not only them use screencasting, but the students use screencasting to share things back with the teachers. And so we've got, I think there's about 5 different classes that I'm working on, and I'm going to actually pull in a couple teachers for one of them, because we've got multiple like RTI programs that we use, and I don't use those much, as I don't use them at all as a teacher, and my role administratively with them is getting kids registered. So I don't have any access to the programs, so I couldn't teach people how to use them. So I'm going to pull in a couple of our high flyer teachers and have them lead those classes. And so hopefully this opens up, people's eyes to, wow, I could actually teach other people how to do this.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of the high flyer teachers and using kind of those teachers as case studies to help carry the message forward. That makes a lot of sense to me. I know just in general, there's a ton of uncertainty about what the fall semester brings and what it's going to look like. Maybe what has your district been doing to kind of plan for the uncertainty that might come with the next semester, and how does your role fit into that?
Yeah, our assistant superintendent reached out to me, and she asked me to put together this survey. Like, let's see what our teachers know, what they don't know, and how they feel technology-wise. And so I put together a survey for the teachers, and then our principals are, during their staff meetings, asking teachers certain questions, kind of getting feedback there as well. And so we're pulling in all this data that we can, and then we also, at the beginning of all this, it was the week of spring break, so the first week of April, we sent out a survey to parents asking, and then teachers had to call parents too, finding out who has internet at home, who doesn't have internet at home, who has a device, who needs a device, like how are we going to get all this done? And so taking all that data and putting that together, doing these classes and stuff over the summer, but then we're also, looking at our, maybe we're going to do a hybrid where we do half the schools there one day, and then they're not there the next day, and they learn from home, and half the building's occupied, half it's not. And I know like the CDC has got different guidelines that they put out, and so they're looking at those and what we can do. And so it's just, it's kind of all over the board. We've got plans for fully virtual, we've got plans for fully in person, we've got plans for hybrid where we've got kids there some days we don't have kids. So it's kind of all over the place. Like our scheduling in our student information system is, they've got multiple things going on. Like, if here's scenario 1, here's scenario 2, we don't know what we're going to be doing, and we're just waiting on guidance. And ideally we'll be back in person and face to face, but if that's not the case, we have to have some kind of backup ready to go.
Totally. Yeah. I think what you just shared, the sentiment is about the same across the board. Have other plans, prepare to be back, but also leave the door open for uncertainty. Okay. So this has been fun. To close it out, maybe what is your most important takeaway from this experience and maybe, it could be from the perspective of being the district IT coordinator or the teacher perspective, but what is something that you have taken away from this experience that you'll use moving forward?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is flexibility. Everybody's got to be flexible. I mean, whether it's flexible with you've got kids at home and you're trying to work and trying to get that done, flexible as a teacher. In our state, things aren't counted against the kids right now. So if a kid had an A in class, that's going to be their grade at the end of the year for the semester. And so we are doing an incentive. If kids participate a certain amount of time, they can move up a letter grade, but we're not counting anything against kids. So being flexible, like my classes right now, I've got about a quarter of the kids that actually participate. And this week, being after Memorial Day, I've got even less. And so being flexible in that, like I've had to change my classes. I taught in a woodshop class, and I had to change those to some problem solving things. And then the first couple projects the students did, I had kids complain they didn't have paper and tape at home in order to do the projects. So I've had to change even more. And so being flexible as a teacher, being flexible as a parent, as an employee, being flexible as a tech coach. I've had to do so many different trainings. I've gotten on so many different Google Meets with people and said, I need you to show me your screen so I can walk you through whatever this is and so we can figure it out. And, being flexible time-wise, I'm taking calls from teachers sometimes late at night because they're busy during the day with stuff. And, I've got a few free minutes. And so I'm like, yep, let's do the call right now. Let's get it figured out so you are ready to go for tomorrow. And flexible, obviously, in your time. And so a big takeaway is flexibility. Those teachers that are, the tech uncomfortable, they need to be flexible with technology. It's a whole different world in education right now.
Yeah, I like that. And I think flexibility is something, and adaptability is something, no matter what walk of life you're in, is critical. And I think you're thinking about this the right way as you move forward and as all this uncertainty exists. Josh, where can people maybe connect with you or find you online? Do you have any places that people can go to meet you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Josh M. Bridges, and I'm not there a ton, but now that I've got a few things going on, I'm going to start being there more often, posting things. I've got a website, about.me/Josh Bridges. You can find information about me there. Trying to be out there doing whatever I can.
Well, you're doing a good job being on Tackling Tech here. So definitely thank you. I know you're managing several different roles. So we appreciate the conversation today on Tackling Tech, and hopefully a pandemic doesn't interrupt us in the next time we do this.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Take it easy and talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.